Okay, everybody. So, good afternoon. Now, okay, so yesterday we didn't have a meeting because it was mi cumpleaños and I wanted the time to spend that. I wouldn't want to, make a video and have a meeting or reading and discussing on that day because it's all about family. And then the other day we didn't have a meeting because of the weather, which was really sunny and beautiful. But I was just thinking that I should not blame not having meetings for this Aries class on the weather being just so beautiful and so warm. And just so I thought that we were just wasting a lot of time, and I really wish that we had these meetings more frequent because we have a lot of work and a lot of reading still to do. We might not even get through this whole book, but what I will do is we'll get through the most important categories, which is probably going to be Aries in daily life, or maybe I might try to do Aries as an adult. Maybe, I don't know. But we'll see what we have time for, okay? So I thought that we might come outside because I did not want to be stuck inside when the weather's just so gorgeous out. And so that's why we're all out here. So hopefully that thing will give me a lot of memory, a lot of time. We'll just see. If it stops though, then that means that you can all go back and you can all do what you want to do. First of all, though, you know what I'm going to do. So I want to make sure, and I did send a little screencast recording to kind of tell you about what the Always as a Child section is going to look like. And then also, because I haven't found a substitute for the board yet, but then also, how are you doing on your Always in My Life projects? Now, it's really coming down to the wire because they're going to be due on April 10th. Okay, so how many of you have got those done? Okay, now none of you here should have not even started yet, or should begin to start, because you have exactly 3 more days, and it'll be due at about 4 in the afternoon. Okay, that's when your due date is for your famous aliens. So for those of you who are behind, you had better for today, the rest of the day, tomorrow. Hopefully you've been doing a lot today. Tomorrow and then the night, you would better really put your focus in because it's crunch time and it's really coming down to the wire. So definitely make that your top priority to get that done. How many of you are done? Excellent. Close to being done. Wonderful. You still have time. Great. I can't wait to see what what your projects are. Remember, I gave you all the guidelines for that. I have a screencast with a presentation. And also, I do want to say that as close as Aries as you can get it. If it has to be a Sagittarian, you have to connect that sign to Aries, or you can lie about it. I much prefer that you combine them or you lie about it. But anyway, so that's the expectation for that. So then with that, can even, if it's a Scorpio, then yes, you definitely have to tie it in. If it comes down to being a Capricorn, well, they're both cardinal signs. You have to tie it in as close as you can, okay? And I will help you out if you need help or you can't find the connections, okay? Now, probably give you some sources, or maybe I have some ideas of my own. I'm not an expert at astrology, I have to say, but I do know quite a bit about the characteristics and traits, understanding each of the different signs. So, we left off, and I'm actually going to retrace where I was. We left off talking about the child, and so the connection to that stage of life in Aries. So we talked about the emotion change. We talked about that spiritual moment of being able to feel and being able to cry. The moment when a baby is born is a new beginning and a new life, a full and expansive and joyous life. So that's what our discussion was there. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because we really um, have to get going here. That was basically we talked about how as the OS grows, it evolves to become the fullest of its sign, and also through the polarity of Libra, which is something that we're going to talk about in this category quite a bit as well. So I might not even do the Aries in school. I don't know. But so let's just focus on as a child for now. So I'm going to read to you the characteristics and traits of Aries children. Okay? Which is basically Aries for what? So Aries children are energetic, sprittly, and brave. Well, we know energetic and we know brave, one, really courageous, wanting to get out there in life. But spritly, think of, wanting to be physical, that physical inertia, wanting to run, wanting to ride a bicycle, all those kinds of things. In the same way, the Knights of Wands, or the court card in the tarot associated with Aries, takes life by the reins, takes control of its own individual life. Aries is proactive, does it on its own, and forward moving, wanting to expand. The difficulty is trouble committing to one thing, which Sag can kind of grind it down a little. But so it's forward moving, wanting to go further, wanting to, all those things. So as soon as an Aries can move, they will likely reach out and grab something. When an Aries child is able to walk, and often they will learn to walk on the earlier side of life, Aries is unstoppable. The connection to spring and the physical inertia of Mars gives Aries, as a child, a certain thrust of momentum, a thrust forward, really enlightens, and it really revives the Aries, making it, because Aries season, it's the thriving time, it's the strongest time of Aries. It should be uninhibited. So, let's see. Okay, so, in the image of a young toddler tilting forward, charging forward as if walking from their head comes to mind. Those children experience the world from their own perspective, own individual perspective. So on one side, this becomes a child who is independent and confident. Okay, these should be pretty simple. So they may want to be the first in line and will actively ensure their place both at home and in the world. So they are the leaders. They want to be, they want to have that place in control. That's basically talking about their confidence and independence. So it is so important to keep an Aries challenged and stimulated both intellectually and creatively. Intellectually, thinking, communicating, talking, learning, reading, speaking, listening. So Aries, and then creatively, all those kinds of things. So Aries children would need to be provided many opportunities to prop themselves. I want to take one step back, so physically and intellectually. So problem-solving opportunities, helping to build up their confidence in themselves. Offering them praise is also wonderful, but be wary of too much praise. If the Aries child isn't kept stimulated, because it's the same thing as Gemini, and Aries doesn't want to stick to something too long, otherwise it gets bored. It needs, something to keep it going. We talked about the introduction, the fuel to keep it going, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, physically. So all of those things. Otherwise, the fire will burn out. So, all of these things relate back to the basic astrology of understanding the basic Aries in the introduction. Okay, so that's all the most important key information is in the introduction. So that's why it's critical that we read it before anything else. That is the only thing that we read. So, if the areas isn't kept stimulated, they're more prone to being impatient, to causing temper tantrums, and bullying even. So, they get impatient if things aren't going quickly enough, if it's, not enough, if it's boring, temper tantrums, screaming, yelling, all of those childlike things. You all know that. And bullying, physically and also verbal aggression. So, it's important to note that always children are deeply sensitive to the home and parental life, which is Cancer, and government and school life, political, society, that's Capricorn, the mother and the father. So they also feel a heightened or intensified emotional connection to conflict, conflict, and violence. Okay, often in the areas will laugh if two are having an argument. That's why I'm so curious about watching I Survived. I'm born under that sign, and I really like to hear others' stories of what they've gone through. Not that I can empathize with that very well, but still, it depends on the mood that I'm in at that point in time. But, so with the drive to optimistically move forward, again, they're forward moving, which then leads them to their purpose. If some conflict or violence is going on, they will get in there and they will want to control it, and they will want to strive to change it, do something about it. So, legendary. Okay, so now we're going to get to our famous person that I wanted to talk to you about. So, legendary. Aries and Japanese artist Yayoi Kusama was born on March 22nd, 1929. Sounds familiar? It's Reese Witherspoon's birthday. Often an example of this. So Kusana's mother was physically abusive, physical abuse, spanking, hitting, smacking the face, all those kinds of things. Her father was described as a womanizer. That's all those kinds of things. Womanizer. Attacking women. So her childhood was also greatly influenced by war, because if she was born 1929, the war, during her childhood, World War II was going on. So all of that stuff was occurring. So, and she claims that during this period she began to find important notions of personal and creative freedom. So think of if you were, I'm not going to try to do this, but, so she was born in 1929 doing a really, really rough and intensive, very, very difficult and horrific healing time period in history, which was during the war, and there were conflicts with her family, the home life. That's Cancer. So she seeked personal and also creative freedom. One of the planets influencing Aries is Uranus, ruled by Aquarius. So, which rules Aquarius. So that that freedom to express oneself, Aries and Aquarius, ideal, all those kinds of things. So, although these events could have happened to anybody, an individual with an Aries soul path will greatly feel the resistance from the squaring to Cancer, which is the family situation. Capricorn is the political and also the public image and climate. So the karmic relationship to violence, both in the home, which is Cancer, and more outside in the political arena, which is Capricorn, is more palpable and noticeable and more interesting to the Aries child. It's really about fighting, vital sign. So obviously. So this is because of the Mars influence. And these are kind of getting into the low roads of Mars and the low roads of Aries, and they can start to change bad things. They're very heroic to us, but there's also some really negative things as well with Mars. Um, Far less than there are with Scorpio and Pluto. So, the planet of Mars in its good and bad, high load and low load, can be war and violence. So these experiences will often feel heightened or intensified, as we said before, for the Aries. Heightened, bringing it to new heights, intensified. They feel things very deeply, very strongly, very intensely. So which is part of the tempering process, fueling Aries forward on the path of individuality. So, we talked about this person who was born in Aries, and we talked about Aries being connected to violence and conflict and aggression. So they're very, very sensitive and very heightened and intensified to all of those things, as we were just reading about. So again, I think that it's all very self-explanatory. So then we talked about the Aries, wanting to be, adventurous, wanting to be really strong with the Aries child that we talked about as well. So I think that this is all pretty self-explanatory. Now, I would feel more comfortable if I had a board to write things down, but I'm just going to let the book really explain most everything, because it's kind of exhausting for me to have to do that. So this moves Aries to the purpose in life. Okay, we're just going to talk about as Aries being an adult. We're going to skip over the next paragraph. We're just going to talk about Gemini and what it squares with Pisces and Virgo, and also Anne Frank, because that does not apply to Aries, and I do not want to waste time. But you can go back in and read that paragraph if you want to, but I want to focus on what's most important here. So, skip over that. So, I wonder if we should move on to the next. I don't know. Well, so, we may just do one more paragraph, actually, and I may just read this one to you. So, when absorbing the lives of legendary artists and writers like Yayoi Kusama, we feel the difference the astrology sign makes in relationship to their ways expressing grief towards war. So Kusama, in carving out a path of her own, moved to New York at a young age and found herself involved in activism, fiercely devoted to bringing equal rights to women, because during World War II there was war, and women at the time were looked down upon in society against men. So she really felt strongly. She was getting in there, and she was very courageous. She would not back down. So that's very Aries of her. So fiercely devoted to bringing equal rights to women. Growing up in a family and culture that did not value gender equality, it goes against the Cancer and Capricorn. And the genetics would go against, family and everything. But so Kusama activated her cardinal right as an individual, standing up for other women who have experienced similar injustices. So this allows always to be able to feel and empathize and help with these kinds of things. So, we're going to stop there. So that's your little story of a little person there in that. So before reading that book, this book, I did not know who that person was. So it was kind of nice to get to know who was really making the astrology connect into real life. And what I want you to do, just like all this COVID stuff going around, I want you to inspire others to learn astrology. Not that they don't have to believe in it, but they just have to know and trust that it works. So do your part to do that. So this is what I'm going to have you do. You have a little project. It's a paragraph long telling me what was a childhood memory, doing or saying something that channeled the most village energy and why, and can always remember to connect astrology to the real situation itself and yourself, and also relationships with others. So that's what I want you to do. And I'm just going to give you the freedom to structure it the way that you want to, but just remember, all of those things need to be incorporated in there. So that's what you're going to do. I might make a little screencast of how that's going to work later today. I don't know, but just get started on it. And so you can go inside and you can go to your rooms and you can get to work on that. Thank you very, very much, everybody. And I'll remember to do these things outside. Excellent.